A very warm welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us today. This is a recorded session by the MOOC team to introduce ourselves and also to answer a few questions from our November 2020 batch of participants. I'm the newest addition to the MOOC team. My name is Alisah Kamps. I'm a second-year student at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam. I study communication and information science, and I specialize in English language and communication studies. I've been so honored to be a part of the MOOC team this year. It's in part a springboard for an honors research project I'll be working on that will focus on English pronunciation and world Englishes. It's been a really wonderful and fulfilling experience for me so far to mentor on the MOOC, and I've had such a pleasure to work alongside Amrita and Laura Rupp. So in that vein, joining me today is my colleague Amrita. She would like to introduce herself.
Well, thank you, Alisah. I'm Amrita. I've been associated MOOC now for a while now. This is, I believe, the fourth run, right, Laura?
The fourth run already,
The
yes.
fourth run. So yeah, wow. We are at the fourth run. I am a MOOC mentor, and I'm also a diversity facilitator at the Vrije Universiteit. I also am a teacher trainer at the FU. I also had the wonderful opportunity of co-teaching Global English, which is a course that Laura teaches at the Vrije Universiteit. And it was an absolutely wonderful experience to get to know all about how English is experienced all over the world. And over to you, Alisah.
Thank you so much, Amrita. So joining Amrita and me today is our educator, Dr. Laura Rupp. Laura is an associate professor in linguistics at the Faculty of Humanities at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam. She teaches global English and English pronunciation, and she's also the creator and educator of this MOOC. So thank you so much for joining us today, Laura.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. And also wanted to say that, so yes, I created the MOOC and I started the MOOC. Well, I created it with a team at Vrije Universiteit, but then the first time I was kind of running it on my own. And then I was joined first by Amrita as a mentor, and then now this year joined by Alisah. And I'm so happy because I think that they have also very specific contributions to make, which only makes the MOOC richer than it was already. So I'm very happy that you've joined me.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be a part of it, and I think I've been able to learn so much from you and from Amrita along the way, and it's been really amazing to see to see everybody's contributions and their views on their own accents and about their perceptions of English pronunciation. And I think myself as a native English speaker, it's been very eye-opening to see how other people perceive the English language and the power that it holds. So it's been a great experience. So
Thank you, Alisah. It's been wonderful having you also. You have such a thoughtful and empathetic approach towards the topic. And Laura and I have often discussed that it's such a valuable asset for the MOOC to have you with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, we have some questions today, which Laura will answer for us that have been taken from the participants of the MOOC this year. So if I can pass the floor to Amrita.
Yes, I mean, it's been so wonderful having all the participants with us, especially during these very unprecedented, bizarre times that we are going through. That we feel very happy that we can provide an environment and a community to learn and grow, and honest on a topic that's so relevant and important to all of us. Laura, the first question that I would like to present to you is from Sabine, and Sabine writes in from France, and she says, I just wanted to share a thought with you, thought which has particular echo here as we talk about pronunciation and accents. In my country, which is France, for Sabine, there's a bill about regional accent discrimination. Some people with strong regional accents are being discriminated when interviewed for a job. So some of them have to rub their accents off for a more neutral one. The project is to recognize this discrimination on the level as other discriminations, for example, like race or other factors. I find it very sad, Sabine writes, to have to renounce your own background and identity. And she then further writes that, so it made me realize that when I started this course, I was also ashamed of my French accent when speaking English. I found it appalling, which was my point of view. Nobody ever told me so, because it wasn't genuine British or American. People can understand me when I speak English. I even have positive feedback. but now my understanding is I won't rub my identity or who I am from an accent sounding more British or American if it ever happens. So she sort of come to terms with it. But we hear this so often, right? Like there is so much baggage. And while here we have a case of a legality associated with the discrimination, much of it is also microaggressions against accent, subtle things that are said. So I'm wondering also about how English seems to be more packed with this kind of discriminatory attitude. People who try to speak in English have this baggage to carry more often. Is that a correct assumption, Laura? Or if it is, then why is that the case?
So the question is, if this happens to English accents in particular, this accent, to be perfectly honest, I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm not aware with any figures or research showing that that this applies to English accents specifically. It may well be. Huh? I'm not saying that that is not the case, but to be honest, I'm not familiar with that kind of literature of those kind of figures.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Where English is concerned, I don't think it only applies to, or it happens to non-native speakers of English. Because I have seen reports that it very much applies, looking at England, applies to native speakers also, for particular regions within England. And so coming back to, so does it apply to English accents specifically? I'm not sure, but what we do know is that it has a great impact because people may depend very much on their ability to speak English, where job opportunities are concerned, or regarding other prospects. Yeah, so perhaps it's the case that regarding English, the impact is very large. That might be, or it particularly affects people's or the professional area.
Yeah.
I think that might be the case. I think it is changing very slowly. Those changes are always, it may take decades for people to, or for society in general to develop different attitudes towards non-native or non-standard accents.
Yeah.
But certainly I know that within England, so for instance, so the BBC broadcasting, at first, so originally only standard English speakers or people with an RP accent were employed. That's certainly not the case anymore. Yeah, so that has changed already. And I think that as for non-native speakers, I think certainly within academia, not generally, because I know that at some universities, so they still very much promote a standard British English accent or a standard American English accent. But I know that there are also within academia a number of universities these days, who are more appreciative of non-standard accents, or also promoting non-standard accents. So I think times are changing very slowly, and I would also like to call upon all the MOOC participants, so especially the English teachers, to help us fight that battle.
It's an important one, and I can also reflect, like, in this team of mentors that you have selected and chosen. I mean, Alisah speaks English very differently than I speak in English, and that they both have a space and a place within the English pronunciation world. So
and the fact that we all have different English accents is just very much a fact of life. It's what the world is about. So regarding the mentor, so we are with the three of us in the team right now. But I would very much, so for the MOOC, so to further develop the MOOC, if any one of our participants would like to also be a mentor on one of the runs, we would very much welcome that. Because there's so many different native languages and people have so many different accents. Now, it is impossible for one person or for the three of us. So we get questions about different kinds of accents. It's, we cannot know the answer to all of these questions because we're not familiar with all of these native languages, and it's an impossible task for us to become familiar with them. And so we would very much like people to perhaps join us for one run who have completely different native language.
Yeah.
As somebody from Vietnam, for instance, or from Nepal, or from closer to our homes right now, so from Spain or from Italy or from Greece, because it will be particularly helpful to those participants who have similar native languages.
Indeed, indeed. And I think that's such an inclusive approach. I mean, in terms of also acknowledging that there is a wealth of knowledge in our participants, and
Yes.
sharing it with us and with fellow participants, very much the ethos with which you started this course, which was to become a community of learners.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that, Laura. I'll
Mm-hmm.
move on to the second question, which comes from Yuko. Yuko writes saying that after going over the exercise steps regarding rhotic and non-rhotic accents, I found out my English pronunciation is a mixture of both. This is the outcome of learning English while living in both rhotic and non-rhotic countries. I thought my English was almost Australian, as I've lived there for a few decades now. And she writes saying that I'd be very grateful if our educator or mentor could give me insights into the following. As I teach English as a second language, is it a problem to teach pronunciation while my model pronunciation is a mixture of American and Australian accents?
Mm-hmm.
I
I think it's not a problem. Again, like I was saying, I think it's a perfectly natural thing. We all have different accents, and it's certainly not the case that if you yourself do not have like a native accent, that you're not qualified to be an English teacher. Me personally, for instance, I don't have a native accent either. And so what I do personally in my pronunciation classes is to so you can take your own accent as a reference accent. Yeah, so for people to be aware, so they should be aware that you have this particular accent, and may well be a mixture of, I don't know, Australian and what was the other accent again? Sorry, it was Australian and American, huh?
Yeah.
Australian and American. Yeah, so it can be any kind of combinations. But it's so what the students, they should be aware that you have this particular accent, and then point out the differences between your accent and a range of other accents, so that you're able, or that you facilitate also students who would like to perhaps develop a different kind of accent.
Yeah, indeed.
I don't think it's a problem whatsoever. I think it's like I said, I think it's perfectly natural.
Yeah.
There was long this tradition in English language teaching where it was thought that only native speakers of English should be English teachers, because they can be like a model, on the assumption that, you know, all students should then acquire either like a British standard English accent or an American English standard accent.
Indeed.
I think the advantage of non-native speakers of English being English teachers is that they're able to perhaps understand difficulties that non-native speakers are experiencing more readily, because they've experienced those difficulties themselves. And as I was saying, I don't think it's a problem at all for you to have a non-native accent if it's a combination or perhaps one particular type, as long as you're pointing out to your students that you have this accent, and then to show what the differences are between your accent and that of other English accents that your students may want to develop.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think you might find yourself in a situation where a student of yours wishes to develop an accent that you're not really that familiar with, or that you think, I can't, it's difficult for me to help the student because I find the features of that particular accent difficult myself. I'm not fully familiar with those features. And then you can try and find another teacher who can perhaps help you or refer that person to particular literature. Yeah. It's also, I would like to say, or at least this is my opinion, that you shouldn't feel ashamed, as an English teacher, if you're not able to help students with a particular accent because you're not familiar with that yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. That's very, very helpful, Laura. Also for me, as someone who's mentoring this course, very useful comments, and something that I'm also going to try and utilize more and more as I mentor in the course. Alisah, what's been your experience like with the MOOC participants? And
I think it's been mostly really amazing to see everybody's dedication to the MOOC, and the amount of diversity that I see on the MOOC is also something that's just very inspiring for me. And certainly with all of the, as you said, the bizarre circumstances this year and the pandemic, I think everybody has struggled with staying focused and staying productive and finding a space to sort of keep learning and growing in their own way. And it's been really encouraging and uplifting to me personally to see how dedicated and enthusiastic all of the participants are. So thank you for inspiring me the past few weeks. I think it's also been really interesting to see, because the MOOC is a platform which houses so much diversity. It's been very eye-opening for me to see everybody's insights about their own accents, but about their own goals as well, and the ways in which they perceive English pronunciation in regards to topics such as credibility and what they wish to achieve with their own English pronunciation. So going from that actually into the first question I have for Laura, it relates to this topic in a sense. So Rosanna from Peru writes, dear educators, first of all, I would like to thank you for preparing this online platform that led people from many countries and gave them access to this course, and that would in any other way be impossible. And I saw that sentiment shared by many others as well. And then she goes on to say, secondly, I would like to know if there is a recommendation to shift my accent and therefore my pronunciation from American to British. I have to admit that I feel more comfortable with the American accent. However, I have an opportunity to study and work in the UK, and that can affect my credibility and also my listening skills. Maybe it would be more useful to practice a standard accent despite my credibility being lower. So I wonder if you had any reflections upon that, Laura.
Yeah, so I will respond to this question first. And then I would like to come back to one of the comments you made, Alisah, about the participants having contributed so much material. So please remind me that I won't forget.
Okay.
Should you then shift to a British English, standard British English accent? It's a very difficult question, I find, to answer. I think there's no standard answer that I could provide. It very much depends on the situation. So I think if you feel comfortable with your American accent, then I think you should keep it. And then unless you would like to also, I mean, this is also something you can do. You can, in the first instance, keep your American English accent, and then perhaps you find it interesting, or nice to also try and develop a British English accent. That might well be. Unless the situation would kind of require or demand from you that you develop a British English accent. And this then, this is very much, as we have been saying, I think, in this session also, but it also includes in the MOOC. It's not, I don't think it's right, that people should change their accent, because otherwise they may not be accepted within a particular situation. But unfortunately, it's still the case. Yeah, it's still a fact of life that sometimes, this is what is expected. And it may be that you're trying to have a particular job that asks this, or that is being required. And I think, then obviously it would be beneficial, although I wouldn't agree with it. But again, you may find yourself in a situation. I sometimes find I also vary in my English accent. Depending on when I'm talking to my colleagues, for instance, or when I'm in a more formal situation where I think it's more appropriate. As I was saying, this is a fact of life that sometimes this may be required of you. And so I would first see, or perhaps already, what kind of situation you will be participating in. But if it's not expected from you, then certainly I wouldn't necessarily change it. Unless, like I said, sometimes it's interesting to also try and features of other accents, and or unless you think you think the British English accent is a kind of nice accent to have. But otherwise, I would say, I would stick to your American English accent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if the if the pressure is coming from elsewhere, to then look at where it's coming from and weigh why is it important for me to adopt that accent. But if it's coming from within yourself, then maybe try and understand, why do I want to speak a different accent, and become comfortable with your own, because there's nothing wrong with that.
No, exactly.
And
And I would just,
upon yourself to change your accent.
yeah, and I would just, I mean, for me, it's relatively easy because I'm in academia. When I go conference, it's all different English accents. We study English accents. You know, the more variety, the better. We love it, and so nobody will look at you if you have you know, your own English accent. So, but that's a very safe, really safe environment. But I'm perfectly aware of the fact that this may not be the case, you know, elsewhere, or that there are particular positions or particular jobs that may require you to develop a particular accent. And then you could ask yourself, you know, do I really want to have this job? And do I think that it's worth then?
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm changing my accent. Or you could also then perhaps only use the British English accent within your job, but still have your own American English accent among your friends, right, in more informal situations. And I also think that you will find that when you move to the UK, that you may then kind of naturally already develop some British English features. Yeah.
indeed. And Laura, you wanted to also go back to something.
Yes. Yes, because Alisah was saying, and quite rightly so, that we've so participants have contributed so much material themselves, so they're learners, but also they're really very much, I would say, contributors.
Yes.
And Alisah pointed out so that she is she's currently a mentor on the MOOC, but she's doing this in the context of an honors research project, and so for her degree. And so part of this research project is to help run the MOOC, but also then there's a research aspect to it. And actually what she's going to do for the next, so after the MOOC has finished, so for the remainder of the academic year, is to look at all the material that the participants have contributed, and to then see how we can use some of that material to actually develop the MOOC. Especially regarding languages or native languages that we don't know very much about. So I would like to very much encourage all the participants to contribute whatever they can. And so then Alisah, I'm so happy that she is doing this for her honors program. It's really, really great. And I think also it's not very much done. So when you look at current literature, and then again, I have to say, so I'm within Europe, so it might be different within Asia, for instance, but within Europe, you read literature on English pronunciation, and it's very much regarding the same languages. Yeah, so European languages in my case. But so within Europe, I would say we know relatively little about accents within Asia, for instance, or within Africa. And so what Alisah is going to do is she's going to look at all the material that you've contributed and then see how we can include this in the MOOC. So then to also provide for learners with different native languages. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's been amazing to see everybody's contributions, and I think it's a really incredible thing that then I will be able to take your contributions and develop that into something that will help other learners in the future and sort of keep this community and keep this cycle going. So yeah, it's been really great how much everybody has contributed.
Yeah,
thank you for that. I do have one more question from Marta in Spain. She writes, I don't want to sound either British or American, but I want to develop an accent that is perfectly understandable. Since I'm teaching English, my accent will also provide a model for other students, so it's important that it is highly correct and credible. On the other hand, I would also like to make students feel comfortable experimenting with their accents in the classroom and finding the accent that feels right to them, provided that it is understandable, of course. I thought this was something that we could reflect upon, as it was something that I saw come up in the course a lot, this notion of the balance between credibility and being intelligible, but also giving people the comfort to sort of feel like themselves in their own accent and feel comfortable experimenting with their own accent.
Yeah, I perfectly agree with that. And so I think so the way that she is, her perspective on teaching English is very much in the spirit of of what we're trying to do within the MOOC. I think, and I feel so within the MOOC, but also in English pronunciation courses that I'm teaching, what I feel is very important is that so the students or participants in the MOOC feel that they have agency over their own accent, so that they feel that it's not something that is imposed on them. You know, you should try and learn British English, or you should try and learn the standard American English, but it's something that they have control of. They should have control of their own, so they should understand English pronunciation. So the awareness I find very important, and then for them to have control over their English accents, or to have agency over their English accent. And so it is then indeed, I think, perfectly acceptable, or we should appreciate, for people to have features of their own accent, of their own native language, for instance, but to have their personal English accents to some extent. Because it's just, it's part of who we are. Yeah, so that is the starting point. And then intelligibility is important, because we are speaking so many different backgrounds, so it's important that we understand one another. So that I feel is important. And credibility, I've added that in the course because like we've been saying, unfortunately, it is a fact of life that people are being discriminated against based on their accent. So I think it's important to be aware of that. It's not necessarily that I agree with it. It's not necessarily that I agree with it, because I think, you should be perfectly credible without necessarily having those features. But it's just, in my English pronunciation classes also, I would like to protect students being discriminated against. So that is why I'm pointing out, on the basis of research, this is what has been found. What features are being remarked upon, and therefore credibility is also included in the course. But yes, to also, as Marta was saying, to have some experience varying between different features. So I usually do an intake in my English pronunciation classes. So asking students, so what kind of accents would you like to develop? And I also look at them, and I discuss with them, thinking, what kind of accent would suit them. And some of them say, no, we have a rhotic accent, and no, we want to keep a rhotic accent, and non-rhotic, no, it's far too difficult. And I say, well, just try, because I think you have so many other kind of features, and it would be perfectly nice for you to have a non-rhotic accent. And they experiencing with it, and they're saying, yeah, well, we tried, and sometimes they change it accordingly. Yeah, so I think it's very important for there to be room in English pronunciation classes for students or participants to experience with their English accent.
To have the freedom to experiment with different portions of accents, and to see what fits them best and what they're most comfortable with, I think is actually something that would help rather than hinder the development of an accent that they feel comfortable with.
Yeah, but then as a teacher, feel responsible that your students are at any case intelligible. And also, as I was saying, to point out what has been found in research regarding credibility, for not to send them out, in the world and say, well, it's perfectly fine for you to have your own English accent. And then for the students then to find that perhaps they come in a situation where actually it's unfortunately, it's not found to be fine. Yeah, so then to be able, and as I was saying, to have agency or control of your English accent, to then perhaps being able to vary. So to have some of these formal features in that kind of situation, but then to have your own personal accent that you feel fully comfortable with amongst your friends or amongst your colleagues, for instance. So I would perfectly agree with the kind of approach that Marta is outlining there, yes.
Okay, thank you so much for your insight. I think that's something, this balance between credibility but also being intelligible and comfortable with your own accent is something, as I said, that we saw come up in the course a lot. So I think this can be relevant to many learners. So thank you for your insights on that topic. We also have some news to share about the winner of the free upgrade. And so there were a lot of people who were consistently active in commenting, but there was one in particular who was consistent in commenting her own experiences and thoughts, as well as giving examples that would help others throughout the course. And we saw this come up throughout all of the weeks that she shared her thoughts and her goals and provided helpful anecdotes, examples for other learners. And she opened up about her personal pronunciation goals in her own life, as well as working with her students. So the winner of the free upgrade is Marta Garcia Quinones. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Congratulations, Marta. I sincerely hope this will continue to aid you in your teaching. And as we saw in your example above, in your question above, you're on the right track with your approach with your students. And I really hope that this will be able to help you further, and as well as in your own personal growth. And thank you so much for your wonderful insights and your examples throughout the past few weeks that I'm sure have helped other learners as well as provided me with, and Amrita and Laura with insights as to how a teacher of English in another country that's not close to ours approaches the topic. And it's been great to see. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alisah. I'm so excited for Marta. And
yes.
Marta, I know you already have my email because we've been corresponding a bit about questions. So I hope you, I'll reach out to you with the code so that you can enjoy the benefits of a premium account with us. Thank you for that. Before big news, so I also wanted to share the fact that Marta's notes also stood out to me as well, Alisah. So I'm glad that in our choice we have sort of also reached a consensus in terms of who we were looking at, and she made such lovely, insightful comments. So well done, Marta. Before we close today's session, I just want to give the floor to Laura for some time to share like a closing note with us, Laura, for our participants, for us, Alisah and me as mentors, what to take forward from this. Would share that with us.
Yeah, so I wanted to focus so on the MOOC. So it's nearly the end of the MOOC.
Yes.
So it's the last week. So we. And I would like to point out or acknowledge, so we have had 4 weeks of pronunciation teaching or learning also. And it's not very long. Yeah, so 4 weeks, it's very short time. The first week, so in my experience, the first week is kind of still a fun week because rhoticity is a relatively straightforward notion, I think, and it's fun because it affects so many different accents, and so then we've talked about accents, and we've seen or listened to each other's accents, and so on and so forth. And then the second and the third week, I think, were much harder.
Indeed.
So then there's much more theory about vowels and consonants, and sometimes it's not so much fun anymore. And it's really, and I appreciate that. I acknowledge that it's really a much to take in 4 weeks. And so what I would not want to happen is that participants, so that they feel discouraged or disappointed because they've not been able to keep up. And that they would then decide not to leave the course and not consider it anymore. So I just wanted to say 4 weeks, yeah, it's not very, we cannot expect from anyone, any features that they would like to further develop or adjust regarding the English. Actually, it cannot be expected from anyone to have done that within 4 weeks. It's impossible. It's just the beginning, and even if you just manage to develop 1 or 2 features, or to raise further awareness of that would be that's great already.
Yeah.
And then the MOOC, it will be because of the unfortunate the COVID situation. Yeah. So all the material will be available until December.
Wow.
Until the end of December. So you still have time to go back to some of the material and then think about it again. And so to continue working on it. And I also wanted to say that we would very much like for us to continue to be a community, even after the MOOC has ended. So we've got this Facebook page where you can always reach out to us.
Indeed.
And so I would like to call upon everybody to join that, and then so to continue working on pronunciation together, or anything that is related to pronunciation, like accent discrimination, for instance. Also after the MOOC has ended.
Indeed, indeed.
So this is the message that I would like to give to all our participants.
Yeah.
So don't expect you to have, to know all now about English pronunciation, or to have completely developed your own English accent in the way that you would like, because it's not possible within 4 weeks. But just focus on a couple of features, and then you have time until the end of December at any rate.
Yeah.
So you will still have access to the material. Those of you who bought an upgrade, you have, after that period, still have access. But I would fully understand if some of the participants don't have the means to buy an upgrade, but the material is still available. And even after that, so join our Facebook page, and we can continue to keep working on pronunciation together.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you so much, Laura. Yes, I would definitely second that. And I'm sure Alisah joins me in saying that our Facebook page also gives us the opportunity of talking about other things that maybe the MOOC topics have not covered, maybe personal anxiety about accents, maybe a small worry, maybe sharing a video of your regional accents to share with us what it's like. I think it's such a valuable tool for us to exchange information. And I think the only way forward to grow as a community is to share and learn from each other. So I would also urge you to absolutely go ahead and do that. Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you. Alisah, can I give the floor to you?
Yes, I completely agree with Laura and Amrita have said just now as well. And I think it's a really important note as well to think of this as a Kickstarter for the rest of your English pronunciation goals, and not to be discouraged if you feel there are things you still wish to work on, but focus on what you have accomplished over the past 4 weeks, because it has been intense. And as far as I've seen, everybody has been so dedicated. So focus on the things you've been able to accomplish, and then be able to set new goals from that to work in the future. And I think it would be really amazing if you would join us in staying in the community and be active in the Facebook page, as Laura and Amrita have said, so we can all continue to help each other and grow from this point forward even. So thank you so much for joining us over the past few weeks, and joining us for this session as well. Thank you, Amrita, and thank you, Laura, for your contributions. I think that's all we have for today. So I'm going to close this session.
Say goodbye to everybody.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye all.